We are the Meltdown, having just gotten a chance to see HBO's The Penguin series. I don't want to call this a series review because it's been so popular with so many people. There may actually be a season two of this show set maybe sometime after the events of the Batman Part 2. I am Tim Melton. That is Tyler Johns. We are brought to you each and every day live by my bookie, and we are proud to be here with you talking about this HBO series that we were both very much looking forward to. And the reason we were looking so forward to it is because of a little movie that came out March 4th of 2022 called The Batman. This was a restart of the Batman cinematic universe, and it had Robert Pattinson playing the lead role of the Caped Crusader. I am a huge Batman fan. I was very excited for that movie, and I absolutely loved it coming out of the theater. I was excited about what I saw, and it has grown on me each and every time I've watched it. And I really love Matt Reeves, his vision of Gotham and what he's done to propel us into what feels like the comic books visually, narratively, character arcs. Love it very much. So before we get too heavy into the Penguin, I want to talk with you, Tyler, about your thoughts on 2022's The Batman and whether or not that movie experience worked for you.
It absolutely worked for me. One of my favorite movies of all time is Seven, directed by David Fincher. The Batman from 2022 takes a lot of inspiration from that, as well as Zodiac. Paul Dano based his Riddler character on the Zodiac killer. And I was a fan of David Fincher's
Yeah.
Zodiac movie as well. So I really liked this take on Gotham, this Batman as world's greatest detective rather than rich guy with a ton of gadgets. I love how dark and gritty the city is. We always hear about how Gotham is just this run down, crime ridden city, but in a lot of previous projects, it just looks so pristine. And this Matt Reeves universe just really takes you into the darkness that is Gotham City and executes it flawlessly.
Yeah, you feel the griminess of the city for sure, but you also feel like there's a potential for the city. A lot of times I'll watch Gotham based stuff and I'll be like, why not just get as far away as you can from this cesspool of a place? But at times in this version of Matt Reeves's Gotham, I can see the potential, and that's really what's being fought for by not only Bruce
That's true.
Wayne, but a lot of the politicians that are a part of trying to bring a real change to the city. And I absolutely love what they did in introducing the Penguin
Mhm.
in the Batman.
Oh, yeah.
And Colin Farrell was great in that role, but he was almost brought in as a little bit of comic relief at times. He was definitely a side character compared to Riddler, who was sort of
Mhm.
the main big baddie in that. And he
Although
was
I would argue they got a relatively around the same amount of screen time.
That's completely fair, but it was the Riddler story
It
that we were
absolutely was.
living, and the Penguin was just sort of a cog in the wheel of that story. And he's even like, I don't know anything about anything the entire time. So the Penguin in that movie, the character Oz, is always fighting for relevance. And that's where we pick up here going into the Penguin season one. And that leads us to Oz going, you know what? There's a chance now for me to really climb the ladder and gain the power that I've been preaching that I'm worthy of. Not only throughout the Batman, but as times we see in this flashbacks throughout his life where he's talking about making it to the top. So let's start with the very first thing that I've got to get to, minus the fact that we both enjoyed the Batman. And that is that Colin Farrell is absolutely insanely
Oh my
good in this
gosh.
role. And now look, it shouldn't shock us because we saw the Batman.
Mhm.
Why does it still shock us of how good he is in this role after having seen the series?
Because in The Batman, you only get these little flashes of how great that character can be,
Uh-huh.
and it's already in an already great story, but this you just get those little flashes their own time to shine for an hour at a time,
Yeah.
over and over again, and then you really start to love the Penguin, and until you don't.
Yeah, definitely. They could not have you rooting for the Penguin coming
No,
out
they
of this
couldn't.
season, and they did a wonderful job of turning the audience against him with an action that we will get to here very shortly. But Colin Farrell, I've heard a lot of people talking Emmy, right?
Yep.
I don't know if the television Academy is going to reward an actor who is taking a character that first debuted in movies and then took them to the small screen and helped develop them even further. I don't know if that'll be held
Womp,
against him.
womp, womp. I think it's the best thing I've seen this year.
He's
I don't want to hear it.
I mean, yeah, I think that that's completely fair game. And if he doesn't get nominated, it's a complete sham and it will turn everybody off. And you could go as far as if he doesn't win, it will turn a lot of people off because this is how good Colin Farrell is in The Penguin. When I watched the behind the scenes of the episode and Colin Farrell pops up, I'm like, what is Colin Farrell doing here? Like, I'm legitimately like, he's here. He plays Oz.
Oh, I forget they put like 130 pounds of makeup and
Like,
bat suits on him for it to work.
transformative is
Yes.
not even a fair enough word. It is mind blowing how good he is in this series. And it is mind blowing that it tricks me every single time, not realizing that's not just a real guy, like that's actually Colin Farrell. And I should know this by now, being a bat fanatic who saw this in 2022. And I should know that's just Colin Farrell. And I cannot wrap my head around that that's him. He's got that character and his mannerisms and everything down so much, and we learn so much more about the character. But it's not just Colin Farrell's show. That's the genius of this show. That's why it's a real banger
Mhm.
of a show. Cristin Milioti plays Sofia in this, and you can change her last name depending on what part of the season you're in, because times she wants to be known as, Falcone, other times she wants to be known as another part of her family.
Gigante.
Gigante. She is a absolute tour de force in
Oh yeah.
this, and she should also be nominated and be looked at as a potential front runner for acting awards because there are times where you run into the fear of new characters being introduced that water down a character you already know and love. Whether it's from season to season of television or a movie adaptation or a book adaptation, new characters being introduced that you think may actually make it feel like a television show compared
Right.
to some sort of cinematic experience. Not the case here with her. He is remarkable in this and goes toe to toe with Oz, literally and figuratively, and holds her own on the screen in a way that is just chef's kiss beautiful.
Oh my gosh. I was not expecting just that level of performance from really anyone. We've talked about how great Colin Farrell is, but I even wasn't expecting him to blow my mind this much.
Yeah.
But my gosh,
She's so layered and she plays crazy but in control of crazy so well. I don't know how else to put it. I mean, she looks like
she is the I can fix her character.
absolutely 1000%, and a lot of fans there for her performance, and rightfully so. Oz's backstory is so superbly executed, and I think the kid version of Oz
Oh yeah,
was perfectly cast. Like, really
gosh.
well done. The mom son relationship that is explored throughout the entire season, but really hit with an exclamation point towards the end of this season, could have easily felt cheap, but it didn't in the least bit. We've seen a lot of mama's boys on camera that have gone crazy and do horrible things. This felt fresh to me. It felt earned. And it really, what happens at the end of this series makes you feel like all of the journey to get to that point is warranted as well between that Oz and mother relationship.
Yeah, it felt like they wrote a true Oedipal complex in Oz rather than just shoehorning in trauma
Yeah.
to show that, oh, he's broken and that's why he is the way he is now. No, 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 no. You understand everything by the end of this. Exactly how demented Penguin's mind is, exactly where his mother was at, and you're just wrestling with all of this as the credits roll.
And I love that they turn on each other
I love it too.
with Sophia sort of pulling the strings. I mean, it works it's so layered, so complex. Take the gangster side out of it. It's just an interesting human character arc of seeing where Oz goes and makes him so much more valuable moving forward.
It's funny how you say take the gangster side out
Yeah.
because this entire season I've been watching, I can't help but to think that this is Tony and Liv Soprano, uh, the entire run. It is a lot of the same tonal shifts in their relationship. I mean, she even tries to have Oz killed, like Liv did.
Absolutely, she does, and she decides not to go along with it because Oz says the right things at the right time as a
Mhm.
young kid who's out there celebrating with his mom. But the way he murders his brothers, is that fair to say? Murders his brothers, the way he does that?
How else do you call it?
And I think that's exactly what it is. Maybe that
Yeah,
wasn't the intended
yeah,
outcome,
yeah. Maybe he was thinking, oh,
but he knew the
they'll
possibility.
eventually get out. But
Yeah,
he did say, "Have fun trying to get out" when he
sure.
left, so he knows what it can end
He
with.
definitely knew the possibilities at the very least of what could happen. And that the way that whole thing was shot was very dramatic and very intense, which leads us to him basically following suit yet again and killing another one of his brothers, and that's Vic. The Vic character in this, I know, the Vic character in this series is a tool. And I don't mean a tool in that nobody cares about him. I mean, he's a tool to unlock the humanity in Oz,
Mhm.
unlock the humanity of Gotham, gives you a character worth rooting for on the screen,
And
even though,
also unlocks the absolute demonic feral nature of Oz trying to climb his way to the top.
yeah, you and me, kid, we're going to go to the top. No, you're not going to go to the top together because he's going to eventually strangle the life out of you.
Why couldn't the season have ended with them getting slush puppies again? That was fun.
I think that's exactly why it was brilliant. And
Yeah, I agree.
there's going to be a lot of people that when they
Oof.
see Oz choke the life out of Vic, they're going to be screaming angry things at their television screen. I was cheering, and I'm going to tell you why.
Okay, I wouldn't go that far.
I was cheering, and I'm going to tell you why. Because I had predicted in my head that that had to happen. That something had to happen to turn you against Oz, so that way when Batman shows back up on the screen and starts pummeling him, you're rooting for Batman. Because if you're rooting for Oz, it's a really messy sort of situation.
Mhm.
You can't make Oz an anti-hero. You got to make him a villain. And I think that they misfired with sort of what they did with Joaquin Phoenix's Joker. And I bring that up because it's happening at the exact same time where they absolutely hit a home run on what it is they wanted to accomplish with Colin Farrell's Penguin. Because you had to make this guy an absolute monster. And for a majority of the time, you're kind of rooting for him and you're kind of going,
Sure.
while he's a bad guy, he's doing bad things to bad people. So you're like, okay, yeah, he's kind of charming. I understand sort of the appeal, and you have to be there with him. And Vic is a great tool to be able to root for these as a team. When he chokes the life out of Vic, especially after Vic is like, "Your family to me. Thank you so much for all you've done. Thank you for bringing me in." And he's
Mhm.
just absolutely been as loyal as a person can be to another person.
And Oz says, "You are family to me," and
And
family's a weakness.
that's why you got to go.
Mm.
It's narratively earned based on his history.
Mhm.
It doesn't feel out of left field, but it's shocking enough to where the audience will hold him responsible in all the future iterations of this character. And the fact that he takes his ID and throws it in the river just make him
And
some John Doe is pretty strong.
the only thing Vic wanted to be was someone. Now he is literally an unidentified corpse that will have no effect on anyone ever again. And they also had a shot of the ID drowning in the water, much like Vic's parents did during the flood
Oh my
film.
gosh, yeah, that's a great point to bring up. A
I mean,
very
they were going after the audience today. They want you to hate Oz for good reason, and they succeeded. I can't believe I was rooting for him.
How many times did Vic save Oz throughout that bond? A lot.
Yeah.
Oz would not have made it without Vic. And Vic was basically giving Oz all the credit in the relationship. And Oz knew he had to go, and he did it in a way that was as sinister as you could do it. A quick death would have not had the emotional impact of what we saw there with Vic. And the reason I was cheering it is because I'm thinking long term. I'm not
Hmm.
thinking short term. I like Vic as a character. I hate that that happened, but I love that they made the creative decision of we got to make sure we let you know Penguin's a bad guy. And if they had turned him into an anti hero, it wouldn't have been as strong. It's very strong, bold decision, and one that I think will pay off for years now to come. The fact that they decided to actually go along with this, but the bond that Vic had throughout the series, it was a legit drawing point for so many people to get emotionally invested. And then the fact that they snuffed it out in the
Mhm.
final 20 minutes of this series, whew,
I mean,
brilliant.
you hit a good point there that it was shocking, but also narratively earned. Um, I mean, I think off camera, I had even mentioned to you that like, oh, this is gonna happen, and then I saw an interview with Colin Farrell saying, "Oh, you're gonna despise the Penguin by episode 8."
Now, what
Eh,
I had heard was something was going to happen so disgusting to where you couldn't possibly be in the guy's corner.
yep.
But I didn't know for sure it was gonna be Vic.
I
And
I I thought it could be Vic,
yeah,
and then when I believe it episode 7, you find out that he did in fact, let his brothers drown. I'm like, "Okay, maybe that was it."
I didn't feel like
And
yeah.
then nope, nope, nope.
I saw the Vic thing coming in the final 2 episodes maybe of like, I think this but once again, we got a little bit behind in our watch, so when I was seeing it chug along, I'm like, "Oh, what's gonna happen with Vic here?" Because I think that he's the only one that the audience can fully defend in a
Yeah,
way that if he's extinguished, it's not gonna be able to bring back any sort of love for Oz. There are so many secondary characters in this series that help build out the world.
and
Sal,
could build out the world more in the future. There's
some, the
yeah,
ones that are still alive. There's only one that's still alive that I have on my list here. So Sal and Nadia Maroney, obviously, very strong figures in this series, both of them dead at this
mhm,
point. Nadia, especially, lit on fire with her son.
that was
Holy
rough.
moly, that was Game of Thrones esque, sort of. And Oz watched the whole thing. Oz wanted to see
And then taunted Sal about it later.
absolutely. He wanted to taunt, and for him, it's about does my opponent respect and fear me when I'm basically ending them? I have to have that. And he saw that over and over and over again. Johnny Vitti, which
Yeah.
feels like he's constantly awoken and having a gun pointed at him. And like, he's the one guy where I'm like, Johnny, get out of town. Like,
Yeah,
this,
like, he just needs to never lay in a bed because that dude is
yeah,
only caught if he's just chilling in his boxers in bed.
yeah,
Any
absolutely.
other time, he's sharp as a tack. You're not getting one over on him.
Unless it's a big conference meeting and then all of a sudden, kapow.
Yeah, yeah.
Dr.
Whew.
Julian Rush, which I think they've set up as a great sort of entry into Arkham. I think they get Arkham so right in this,
I
right?
think
Gotham's a
so.
character, Arkham's a character, and him sort of being able to potentially pull some strings and help Sophia even more in the future is something that we'll be watching.
Rush almost feels like he could be a precursor to Hugo Strange.
Like he's working
Yeah,
for him or something.
yeah,
Yes,
yeah.
absolutely.
100%. Like a protege, something like that.
I want a Hugo Strange
Oh,
on
yeah.
screen adaptation for sure.
Yes.
Let's see here. The scenes of violence in this series, all effective.
Oh, yeah.
I love do you have a favorite, like, act of violence in the series that you think helps with either the cinematography, making it stand out, or the editing, or the impact? Is there one scene of violence that you feel like really stands out amongst the pack? Because the one for me was the tattoo shop
Oh,
with
yeah, that
there
was
was
a good
sort of
one.
like the silent hit going on, and you're listening to basically the noise canceling headphones. And the main target has no idea that bullets are being sprayed and Oz is coming in hot. And you're not rooting for this punk getting a tattoo, but you're also like telling him, turn around, dude. Like, I mean, I don't
Like,
know why
how
that,
do you not hear that over
like,
your headphones?
dude, turn around. I mean, even though you're not rooting for him, you're like, come on, man. I mean, wake up a little bit here and figure out that you're not invincible. But I thought that that was such a strong presentation of the violence in Gotham. And I didn't feel like it was jarring going from a PG-13 version of Gotham in the Batman in 2022 to a very TVMA
I th
edition of Gotham in this.
oh, I thought the Batman was rated R, actually.
Never had a Batman R-rated movie minus Joker. Yeah, Joker is it. But yeah, no, the Batman was a PG-13 film. Are you now you're fact checking me?
I
Go
am
ahead.
I am backing fact checking you because I didn't believe it.
Yeah,
But yeah, it's a PG-13 movie. That is insane. That Batman 2022 is so dark for
it is.
PG-13.
It is. It's
I
right there on the cusp, but a lot of it's implied if you
implied
think
violence,
about
yeah.
it. A lot of it's implied. So
But you take the fact that it's implied and just assume on-screen implied as the same,
yeah,
it's basically 7.
I agree with you. That is a completely fair bit of analysis there, and I think tonally they've really got everybody on board. And if there's one thing this series had to do, it was keep people invested in the ground level of Gotham
Mhm.
and buy into the city and the menace that surrounds it and go, this is a place that needs a Batman. And the final shot of
Bat signal.
this series had me howling because I'm like, that's exactly what I want now. I do want Batman. I didn't need Batman throughout the rest of the series.
Mhm.
That was the first time where I'm like, I need Batman to show up and do something about this because this is getting out of hand. And the big thing is enough to push people to go like, okay, Batman, we're on your side. Come on, come kick some ass. And
I have seen
it's
so
electric.
many memes this morning about, like, it's like, "Oh, this will happen in the first 5 minutes of, Batman Part 2," and it'll just be a scene from one of the Arkham games where you're doing the really fast
Mhm.
combos on Penguin.
I'm all about
It's
it.
like, this is what we need.
And I'm glad you bring up the Arkham games because me and you, we both love the Arkham games. This felt like playing through an Arkham
Oh,
game,
yes, they
watching it
nailed
on
the
screen.
environment.
Really, really good. And I think we both highly recommend this. I know you judge TV a little bit different than movies. You're very hesitant to ever give out a 5 out of 5 in a movie. But television, do you have the same barometer? Because to me, this is like,
I mean, with television, I would say it would be even more stringent just because there are some shows that have like really stinker episodes compared to what the rest of the show is. But I mean, this didn't have a bad episode, bad beat, bad scene. Is perfect.
so this is perfect for you.
What can I criticize, complain, change? Like, how can I improve this show? I've
I
seen some criticism saying that people wanted more of a Batman presence in this
please.
series,
It's
not
perfect.
Batman showing up,
Sure.
but them at least mentioning that there is some dude dressed like a bat who will just work them.
The bigger risk that they took was not having Batman
I
lurking
agree.
around constantly. It wouldn't have been as risky if they would have actually inserted more Batman because that's what a lot of people say that this series would have to succeed
And
from the outside in.
that's what Warner Brothers was fighting with Matt Reeves to do, was because he was originally holding off on Penguin appearing in on the TV and just doing a procedural at Gotham PD, or a series about Arkham Asylum,
Right.
and then Warner Brothers said, "No, no, no, don't hold off on the marquee characters. Put them in the show." And now we've got this, and it works. I'm so glad, because the fact that this works means that it sets a precedent for Batman projects centering around the Rogues Gallery and not Batman working.
Batman is always best when it's given to one person to
Mm-hmm.
sort of oversee.
Yes.
You have different eras of that. You have the Tim Burton era cinematically, and
You
when
got the
you
Schumacher
got the
era.
Schumacher era, we know how all these end, right? So Batman starts off at a huge high, Batman Returns at a low when it comes to commercial appeal. Okay, don't be getting hating on me if your Batman Returns Die Hard. Commercially, it was not as received as well as the original 1989 Batman. There's no debate about that. Therefore, the torch was handed off to Schumacher. Schumacher, it starts off commercially at a very high point with Batman Forever, and then we get the atrocity that is Batman and Robin, which was the first movie as a kid that I said, I don't think this is good. And I was 6. And I said, I don't think this is the first movie where I'm like, they make bad movies? I mean, I was watching stuff like Timmy the Tooth going, this is great. Alabama Dental Associates, by the way. I hated Batman and Robin even as a kid, and it was made for kids, so I despised it. And then they handed it off to Nolan, and you got one of the best trilogies ever made in what Christopher Nolan did. They then handed it off to Zack Snyder. Got a very divisive, polarizing, where some people it's their absolute favorite era of Batman, some people it's their least favorite.
I
I ran into one of these people in Orlando recently that just basically said like, "Oh, Matt Reeves needs to stay away from Batman. Zack Snyder's the only guy I trust with it." I promise you, I was wearing a Batman shirt, and and I immediately tried to figure out how to get away from this person. But now, Tyler, we're in the hands of Matt Reeves.
Oh, yes, I love it. I love it. I love the epic crime saga universe, whatever he wants to call it. If he wants to change characters' names, I don't mind.
Right.
I got mad when Todd Phillips said, "Oh, this is Lee Quinn over here." I love Oz Cobb. He's the greatest.
Yeah. I trust Matt Reeves.
Oh
I
yeah.
need I need a shirt that says I believe in Matt Reeves.
Yes.
And I do. And
I want to put it on a bumper sticker.
I have not seen a misfire from him yet in almost any aspect of Gotham and these characters that we love so much. So let's keep cooking, let's keep the detective era going, and let's make Batman as strong of a commodity as we can because Lord knows DC Studios needs a strong Batman. So, last thought I have here, the evolution of Oz as a character from where we pick up where he's gone on the power grab post the Batman at the start of this series to becoming the tuxedo clad penguin that we all know that's instilled into our brains is a master stroke of character development. And if you're judging this as a Batman fan, there's no way you can say that they haven't developed Penguin in a way that's satisfying because they certainly have. He's a big part of the Batman Rogues Gallery. And if you're a Penguin fanatic, you've got to be very happy with how your boy was represented, I think, from start to finish in this and making him a true crime boss. But Batman Part 2 comes out October 2nd, 2026.
I cannot wait.
I'm counting down the minutes. I was already counting down the minutes,
Yeah.
but now it's like,
Ooh.
ooh, I do we have anything else to hold us over until then? Maybe some video games or something, but definitely not anything from Matt Reeves, I think. But this is a great sort of bridge to Batman Part 1, Batman Part 2 with having this Penguin series, and I can't wait to see what they do next. So, what did you think of the Penguin? Are we overhyping it? Are you like, it was mid? Let us know. I'll never say that again, by the way. What do you think, Tyler, is the ultimate legacy of this series?
I think this stands on its own as just a crime series, a Sopranos-esque, Scarface-esque, uh, just rise to power story of the American dream. I think it fits in perfectly with the epic crime saga universe, and also I can't be more excited for Batman 2 because I'm pretty sure the Court of Owls are going to show up. Oz walks into a courtroom towards the end of this series, and you see these owl shapes in on the along the back wall of the courthouse. He literally walks into a court of owls. There's no way you can tell me that this is not what the Matt Reeves Batman universe, where Penguin is going to be getting into politics and there is corruption just fraught throughout the city, that we're not getting Court of Owls puppeteering the fate of Gotham City.
I think that it's been talked about enough to where there's enough that makes you go, that theory could pay off. Is it just a nice little Easter egg that's not going to have any sort of narrative payoff?
I've seen some convincing Hush theories as well for next movie as well.
Very, very possible. Will we see a reappearance of a character like a Harvey Dent in this? Because
I
it
do believe we will.
maybe, maybe not. Who knows? I think that it is very intriguing the announcements we're going to get between now and then when this next movie comes out of exactly what the story is going to look like. And there's going to be so many theories, so many discussions. We'll have a lot of them with you here on the Meltdown. Make sure you're subscribed so that way you don't miss any sort of Bat content in the future. We'll have it all covered for you. But we give our full recommendation to this Penguin series from HBO and that you can stream on Max that it really was rewarding in almost every regard, especially if maybe you were on the fence for Matt Reeves's Batman vision. I think this is enough to sort of propel you towards a rewatch of that 2022 film to go, you know what? This is very narratively satisfying for sure. That's going to do it for us here on the Meltdown. Make sure you check out my bookie, where you can bet anything, anywhere, anytime there with our title sponsor, my bookie. Make sure you use promo code next round. We will see you again, same bat time, same bat channel very soon.